This is one of the greatest BYU teams ever. They had a elite defense.
You beat Kansas State, Baylor, and Colorado, and SMU. You beat a college football playoff team head-to-head.
From year 1 to year 2 was amazing under Jay Hill.
Welcome back on a Friday. We are live in Studio B with your day-to-day BYU sports play-by-play. We're over in the Cougar Council Room now alongside Jarom Jordan. I'm Spencer Linton, and we are counseling with the defensive coordinator of BYU football, Jay Hill. Welcome back to the show, Jay.
Hey, good to be with you guys.
It's been a little bit, and you've had time to process just how incredible that season was in many ways. 11-2, coming off a dominant victory over Colorado. What has the post-bowl game time been like for you as you look back on the 2024 season?
Well, it's been busy. We landed in Provo after the bowl game, and then about 6 hours later, we went up and just hung out at our cabin and just relaxed for a couple days. And then we went right into recruiting, and then coaches go to the coaches convention, and then we're right back to recruiting. So there's no rest for the weary, especially on those late bowl games when they're played later in the year. You just go right into recruiting.
There's signing day in December. You're getting ready for the one in February. You're re-recruiting your own players, one of which announced yesterday, Jack Kelly coming back. What does it mean to have him help anchor that defense again next year? Well,
we have great players, and keeping those guys around, and Jack's a good example, is so important to us and our future successes and stuff. We need to keep the guys that have helped build it, and Jack's one of those guys. So
let's throw in Keanu Tanavasa and Hunter Clegg. I mean, there are some notable names coming through the portal, as well as keeping notable guys on your team. So how are you feeling about the recruiting as a whole, including the transfer portal?
Well, the transfers that we take are ones that we know everything about and know that they can play, one, and that they fit BYU, two. But I think those transfers you mentioned are so important to our future success. We're so excited about Keanu and everything he represents, and the player he is and the person he is the most important thing. He's a phenomenal young man. You mentioned Hunter Clegg. I mean, that's a big get for us. Tausili Akana is a big get. Those guys look good right now in their workouts. I'm excited to see them in spring ball. Those guys, coupled with what we already have coming back, is going to be big.
Backers and safeties, you're returning a lot of production there. D-line and corners, how much do you need to pull from the portal versus you feel good about who's coming back?
Well, I think it's important. I'll start with the corner group. I think it's important that those guys have an opportunity to develop and prove to us that they can be starters. If they can do that, then I don't think we want to go into the portal that much. I'd rather continue to recruit high school kids and develop the ones that we have here. And there's some guys now that can really play. Maury Bamba's back, hopefully. You've got Jonathan Cabea that played a lot, Trey Alexander, Marcus McKenzie, Evan Johnson. So those guys can play.
That's a lot of guys.
We need them to develop. And I think them having the opportunity to prove who they are will be able to do that. And then on the defensive line side, I feel good about that group. We have returners that have played a lot. We have young guys there, but they're the future of the program. They need an opportunity to prove that they can be that. And, we lose some critical guys. Tyler Batty, obviously, Jacob Robinson, Mark Collins, Blake Mangelson. But our guys will step up. I think they'll play great.
So spring ball is huge for that. You're going to evaluate that and be like, okay, we may need a guy or two depending on this, or, hey, we feel pretty good based on what we did in the spring.
Yeah, we get 15 practices in the spring, and then you get another 25 in the fall camp before you play a game. So 40 practices give us a great opportunity to get those guys ready to play. And then, you have your preseason games. By the time we get to the Big 12, those guys better be ready to go.
Jay Hill, BYU defensive coordinator, is with us on BYU Sports Nation. As you assess what your defense did as a whole and look at just the unbelievable production, and we were joking about it before we went to break, 22 picks. Oh, it's easy. Just replicate that. It's all good.
Just do it again.
Lead the country in that again. What do you feel like is sustainable and realistic from what your defense did a season ago?
Well, the goal is always going to be the number one defense in the Big 12, and we did that this year. I think we led in points and yards and turnovers, and the real main key categories we led the nation, or we led the Big 12 in. Nationally, we led it in interceptions. I think we were third in the nation in turnovers. And there were some real key things, but we have areas that we can get way better at. Third downs, red zone, and so we know we've not arrived. We've got great pieces coming back to the puzzle. I expect next year to be better than this year. So Is it sustainable? I don't know. I mean, you can only keep climbing so far before there's no more spots to climb. But I like where we're at, and we're heading in the right direction.
What moments or plays stick out from the season, especially from your defense, where you were like, "Hey, that was incredible, and it helped us winning 11 games"?
Well, the play that kind of started, I think, maybe the Mark Collins interception down at SMU, just because that's where the defense became the defense. Is they were put in a couple hard, tough situations, and to keep that offense without a touchdown was enormous. I think that's where we gained the confidence that we can be a great defense. And then the Tommy Prasas scoop and score against Kansas State was huge. I mean, that was kind of what sparked us to know that we can be one of those top teams in the Big 12. What else stands out? Glasker's interception against Colorado, and then him doing the
Deion shuffle.
Shuffle.
That was so good.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of excited up in the box. I don't know that was great sportsmanship. But I was
After
excited.
the game, he said, "I loved Deion growing up." That was like a respect thing.
Yeah,
You know?
and I don't doubt that with Glasker,
Yeah.
because I think we all did, right? I loved Deion growing up, and so to see Glasker do that and to play as well as they did in that Colorado game was so huge. Not just for me to watch from up in the box and be proud of those guys, but for them and their confidence and what the development of the defense represents. I think that game was huge.
How did you dominate that game defensively in the way you did? Because at the press conference, you kind of had a smile like, "Hey, I know we're going to play well in this game." How did you come up with a game plan that was so good?
Well, so first off, I have phenomenal assistant coaches on our side of the ball. Justin Enna, Gennaro Guilford, Sione Puha, Kelly Papinga. Those guys are phenomenal. And then you throw in the mix like a Chad Kaha and Gary Anderson's and stuff. I really believe we got the best defensive staff in the country. And I'm lucky to just be with those guys because they help me be much better. Having said that, we get to make no plays in a game. So it's all the players. I thought that they were extremely prepared with the film that they had watched. I thought that they had handled every practice in the bowl preparation the right way. And there's been very few times in my career where you watch a team practice as good as we did and then go lay an egg. That wasn't going to happen. Not as good as we'd practiced. I just felt strongly that they were going to play great because of how they had practiced. And that's a tribute to the players, their toughness, their discipline, how they prepared. And I knew we were going to play good.
Yeah, you told me as much before the game.
Yeah.
You said, "Watch,
Yeah.
we're going to play well."
Yeah. It's not every game that's that way. You don't just know you're going to go out there and play great every game. That particular game, I felt strongly we were just because of how they prepared.
And it was a fun, motivating game because this team clearly showed like different motivations throughout the year, whether it be 4.5 wins or 13th in the Big 12 or whatnot. Oh, we got the Heisman Trophy winner and maybe the first quarterback taken. Like, it's easy to get up for a game like that, and you guys showed out.
Well, and I think that they knew that, right? Because Colorado was one of those offenses that if you're not ready and you don't go play good, they can embarrass you. They could put 500 yards and 60 points on you. And they had done that their last game of the regular season in the Big 12. They just steamrolled their opponent, and they were flying high, and they just won the Heisman with Travis. And like I say, some people say maybe the best quarterback in NCAA football last year, and they can embarrass you if you're not ready to go. And our guys knew that, and they handled the process and preparation the right way.
When you look back on how the season began for you personally with the health scare and then everything that transpired after that, how do you process that mentally and deal with it was significant adversity, but then to see how the season panned out and what came to fruition? What's that been like for you emotionally?
Well, God is good. You look back on life and things like that, and you can just kind of see God just lifting you and carrying you along the way. And I think that was another one of those processes that occurred. I thought like 6 hours before the heart attack, I was in great shape and I would run and lift and had my body in good shape, and then all of a sudden you're not. And it's such an eye-opener to know how fragile life can be. And I don't take anything for granted, especially after that situation. I'm grateful for the coaches that rallied behind us. I'm grateful for Coach Kalani, who was so good about me making sure I took care of my health. And administration, Tom and Brian and those guys were so good to come to the hospital and just make sure everything was good, and then reiterate that you got to take time, you got to make sure you're healthy. And I did. I came back slowly after that, and I worked, and I think I worked hard, but I mean, I relied so heavily on the coaches and the players to get things done. And I can't say enough about those guys just rallying behind that weird situation and what that represents for me. And it teaches you that, you know what, people around you can really lift you up if you let them.
How are you feeling now?
Good. I mean, that's the craziest thing is, before the heart attack, it felt great, and 6 hours after the heart attack, I really felt pretty dang good. But you just got to kind of work your way back in intelligently. I didn't want to be dumb and all of a sudden have another issue, but I feel good. I have felt good, and we'll just keep our fingers crossed that nothing happens.
Absolutely. And this season was unique in that you were not on the sideline. You said, I need to be in the press box. And you wouldn't even go down at halftime, right?
Yeah.
You would stay in the box.
So I went down, and I apologize to the players for this, but it was the Arizona State game. I felt strongly I needed to go down at halftime, and I didn't because I didn't want to screw up the mojo. And after the game, my wife got after me a little bit, and she just said, you need to be down with the players. They need to see that you're okay. They need to see that you're the one making the adjustments, not just telling the coaches what to do, but that you're in there making the adjustments. So it was the last game, Houston. I went back in the locker room at halftime, and then at Colorado I did too, just so the players knew I'm okay and I'm making these adjustments and we're going to be okay. And I think that helped. I think that helped just in the way those guys played in the second half of those games. And yeah, and they deserved that.
And which game did Kalani have to pull you out of dancing? He's like, Jay, what are we doing here?
I don't know. That ended up being a couple too many times. But, when you're like 7-0 and feeling good,
excited.
and then 8-0 and you're feeling good and things are rolling, you're just excited.
Listen, you can bust out the Roger Rabbit and Cabbage Patch anytime you want, Jay.
I'm a horrible dancer, but I like dancing after the games with the players.
Hey, and by the way, your wife Sarah, an elite co-defensive coordinator, is she not?
She is elite. And, you know, I got to say this. She helped so much in that transition because it was the Kansas State game, and we were I was actually down on the field before the game, and my heart started racing because it was a big game, and everyone knew it, and the atmosphere in the stadium was already electric an hour before the game, and I'm like, oh my gosh, my heart is going crazy. So I went up in the box and I took my blood pressure, and it was through the roof, kind of like when I was having my heart attack. And I'm like, I got to find out how to calm down. So I'm up there trying to calm down, and she comes up, and immediately things were better. And then so she left during the first half, and then that explosion that happened right before halftime, my heart was just racing again. So I took my blood pressure at halftime, and it's through the roof again. And just having her around just has its way of calming me down. And I'm grateful for her for that. But that was a good example of why she was so special to have this year.
Outstanding. Jay, we appreciate the insights. So glad you're doing well.
Absolutely.
And it's so fun to watch the BYU defense. Can't wait to watch them in 2025.
Can't wait.
Let's go.
Thanks, Jay.
Let's go.